The Awakening of the Chosen. Welcome everyone to the channel, The Awakening of the Chosen. My name is Gabriel, and today we will share something special and important with you, your chosen one. We will explore a profound and powerful calling that is impossible to overlook in the next knowledge minutes. This movie is for you if you believe that you have a purpose in life, and that God has something wonderful planned just for you. We are at a pivotal point, so pay close attention. If you, the chosen one, lose this war, you may also lose the opportunity to be used by God. Thus now is the time to fortify yourself and confront the impending conflict. God is really watching. He sees your heart, your strength, and your capacity for triumph. You're not alone if you've ever felt that the burden of your spiritual responsibilities is too much to bear. It's time to wake up and take on the role that was meant for you. Keep watching this video through to the finish, because we will discover the spiritual keys to winning this conflict and making sure you are ready to be the effective instrument that God desires. The call to the selected is a profoundly spiritual message meant for those who really connect with God's love and sacrifice, live out their faith in their everyday lives, and resonate at the same frequency as divine truth. Christ. This call is not simply any summons. Rather, it is a chance to consider the actual reason for our spiritual journey, a kind of compass that points us in the direction of something much more significant than just carrying out our duties and routines. Those who really experience this vibration in their hearts understand that it is a transforming teaching that requires openness, surrender, and a strong desire to walk side by side with God's presence at all times. It's fascinating how this call forces us to go outside of our comfort zone, set aside outside distractions, and embark on a journey of introspection and self-discovery. The call to the chosen pushes us to examine ourselves and consider if we are indeed living as someone who has experienced God's presence. This is a crucial issue because being selected entails much more than just believing. It entails realizing that we are here for a higher reason and that our lives have a divine purpose. This means having a purpose in life and being really devoted to our religion, Christ's teachings, and our place in the world. God seems to be asking us to awaken, to recognize that we have a purpose, that we were selected for something unique, and that this decision carries with it an obligation that we cannot shirk. There will undoubtedly be a sense of urgency when we hear this message, a call for every one of us to approach our spiritual path with more seriousness and commitment. It is an invitation to open our hearts and minds to accept each word as a divine seed that, if nurtured, might develop and change our lives and the lives of others around us. It is not just a call to listen. Rather, it is a chance for transformation. We are forced to consider what it really means to live as a chosen one when we hear this call. Are we really prepared to give up everything that keeps us from God? Will we be so devoted to our religion that it manifests itself in every action we take? In actuality, every lesson we are given serves as a tool for spiritual development and a chance to be ready for the obstacles life throws at us. It is about genuine preparation and fortification that enables us to develop and progress spiritually, not merely about solace or comfort. Every phrase and every lesson offers us the opportunity to grow in our faith and create a strong, unwavering foundation for our path. The call to the chosen calls us to be real-life models of faith, people who give light, inspire others, and live according to divine principles, not only in our words, but in every action and decision we make on a daily basis. Therefore, this summons serves as a preparation for life, for difficult times, and for the struggles we will undoubtedly encounter. It is precisely for this reason that we must fortify ourselves, be ready, and keep changing. Faith is a difficult yet changing road, and every lesson we learn strengthens our spiritual foundation like a stone. When we acknowledge the gravity of this calling, we see that it presents a chance for us to live in accordance with God's will, walk with Him, and line our lives with His plans, knowing that the divine is guiding us at every turn. I encourage you to consider what it really means if you believe that you have been selected and that you have a unique purpose in life. Are we prepared to give that call our best effort? Answering that call is a lifelong commitment to surrender, renewal, and alignment with the purpose that God has set apart for each of us, not a one-time choice. It is an exhortation to go beyond the confines of the material world and explore the core of our spirit, where we discover the actual purpose of life. Being selected entails realizing that we are always accompanied by a higher power, a presence that never abandons us, even when we confront challenges and hardships. This knowledge fortifies us and provides us with the assurance that we are not walking in isolation, and that, in spite of the challenges, we have a divine mission to accomplish. Accepting this duty has a certain charm. It's about being open to change, accepting the discipline of religion, and trying to be the greatest versions of ourselves, not about being flawless. Being selected indicates that we are receptive to learning and ongoing development, but it does not imply that we are pain-free or beyond human frailties. Every setback and error turns into a chance to go back into God's presence and grow in humility and thankfulness. And when we accept this process, people find inspiration in our spiritual path. We become lights in a dark world, bringing compassion, hope, and faith to everyone we come into contact with. It's incredible how just answering yes to God's call completely changes the way we see the world. We start to see challenges differently, realizing that every obstacle is a chance to demonstrate our faith and deepen our relationship with God. What previously seemed insurmountable now presents a chance for spiritual development. The calling teaches us to appreciate the important things in life, to see beyond outward manifestations, and to search for the truth in every encounter, no matter how straightforward or intricate. We must set aside anything that diverts us from the higher purpose that has been given to us in order to go on this trip. Being a chosen one entails making deliberate decisions that are in accordance with divine intent rather than just fleeting wants. This dedication changes our perspective on the world and makes it easier for us to recognize the necessary actions. By responding to this summons, we come to understand that every action, no matter how little, is a component of a larger whole, a piece of the divine plan that is completely and exactly carried out. And here is the point at which each selected individual's journey turns into a quest for self-awareness and a rediscovery of what it is to lead a genuine, purposeful life. By answering God's call, we establish a connection with both the divine and our actual selves, that unadulterated, genuine self that embodies God's image and likeness. Being selected means being invited to live a life of integrity, love, and a never-ending quest for development and change. Every day turns into a chance for spiritual growth and a fresh chapter in our holy narrative. I thus urge you to fully embrace this adventure if you believe that you have been selected. Accepting this trip entails allowing your heart to undergo a metamorphosis that is invisible to the naked sight. Allowing God to rewrite our narrative at every turn is like letting Him lead, mold, and fortify us in every area of our existence. Being selected entails realizing that we are always being polished, and that God utilizes every event as a tool to make us stronger, smarter, and more in line with His desire. God's call causes us to see with the eyes of faith, which transcends human limits and reaches the eternal. It's amazing how we often attempt to grasp everything around us with the eyes of reason. Along the way, we discover that real strength comes from confronting obstacles head-on with the assurance that God is beside us, not from avoiding them. We have a special fortitude to keep going, even when the obstacles appear overwhelming, because we know that we have been selected. We are able to weather any storm because we are certain that God has selected us for something unique. Every challenge turns into a chance to strengthen our faith, ground ourselves in God, and keep in mind that there is a divine purpose for our lives that is being made clearer every day. A selected person's path is one of faith and surrender. In order for God's will to triumph, we will often need to sacrifice our own wills and wants. And even while it can seem difficult, this surrender offers us an unfathomable serenity. When we put our confidence in God, we realize that He always has bigger plans than we could ever imagine, and that He knows what is best for us. Accepting that God's plan is flawless and always for our benefit even when we don't completely comprehend it, is what it means to be chosen. In retrospect, we can see how every instance of putting our faith in God's plan has led us to this point. Although we may not always comprehend the causes of certain challenges, as we reflect on our journey, we see that God was always there, molding and preparing us to be His messengers of love and peace. It is a lifelong learning process in which every encounter deepens our spiritual identity and puts us one step closer to our actual mission. Those that are selected live knowing that they were called to something bigger than anything else. Since we realize that we are co-writers of our journey with God rather than the authors, this realization instills a profound sense of humility. Thus, our lives become a daily manifestation of God's activity in and through us, a living testament to our faith. Because we live with the assurance that we are precisely where we should be, carrying out the task to which we were called. It is through this humility and submission that we discover genuine pleasure. Above all, being selected is a favor. Knowing that God knows us, loves us without conditions, and has chosen us to be a part of His great plan is an unfathomable honor. This vocation changes our perspective on the world, how we interact with people, and how we live each day. Knowing that we are a part of something eternal, something that surpasses our life here and extends throughout eternity, allows us to wake up each morning with appreciation. If this message resonated with you, let us know in the comments how you sense God calling you. In the midst of life's storms, God's voice acts as a comfort to the spirit and a reprieve from the weight of hardships that often appear to want to overwhelm us. Everybody has times when things are too much to handle, when all they can hear are the voices of doubt, fear, and despair, both within and outside of themselves. However, God speaks most loudly at these times of uncertainty and darkness, and His words, "I am God and I am with you," have a profoundly transforming effect. This remark serves as more than simply a consoling statement. It is a powerful declaration of presence and a reminder that we are never alone in our struggles. We start to perceive our challenges from a different perspective when we let this truth into our souls. Every difficulty, suffering, and depressing situation is seen as a chance to get closer to God and sense His presence supporting us. We are given courage to tolerate what formerly seemed intolerable by this presence, which also affords us an unfathomable tranquility that beyond human comprehension. It seems as if God is leading us, holding our hands through the storms, and reminding us that He is in charge and greater than any issue we may encounter. Our viewpoint is totally changed when we have faith in God's presence. The assurance that God is always with us, through good times and bad, lifts the heart that was once buried in worry, dread, and despair. When we really accept this reality, we discover strength that comes from God rather than from ourselves. Even in the midst of turmoil, we may walk with faith because we know that the Creator of the world is with us, watching over every little detail, holding our feet, and helping us when we need it most. God's presence in our lives is an everlasting promise rather than a fleeting gift. He is intimately familiar with our limits, fears, uncertainties, and insecurities. Nevertheless, He makes the decision to be with us both during our victories and our setbacks. One of the best blessings we can get on our spiritual path is the assurance that God is with us and that He will always be there for us. His presence is an anchor that keeps us secure and gives us the confidence and fortitude to continue, no matter how bad the storm gets. Recalling this heavenly promise changes everything when we are under strain and it appears like there is no way out. We are reminded to put our worries, fears, and anxieties in God's hands because He is able to guide us through the storm and bring us to a place of safety and tranquility. It is as though God Himself is saying, "Trust, I am here. I know what you are going through, and I am greater than any challenge you may face." When God is there in the midst of life's storms, we experience an unfathomable calm that is beyond our comprehension and rationality. God's voice often serves as a reminder that we are not alone, even when it seems like everything is crumbling around us and we lack the strength to continue. Every word of God's and every promise He makes is like a lighthouse that illuminates the path and leads us back to the assurance that His love is protecting and supporting us. This fact acts as a counterbalance to hopelessness. Our anxieties become less intense, and the concerns that formerly held us back start to fade as we absorb the assurance that God is with us. Although this process is not automatic, our faith becomes stronger every time we put our confidence in God and choose to hear His voice over the whispers of doubt. Gradually, we start to see the storm as a chance to demonstrate our faith and our connection to God, who is unwavering even in the face of uncertainty. Knowing that He is our strength and our haven, a constant source of support throughout difficult times, is like having an endless supply of strength to tackle life's obstacles. This power that results from God's presence is a constant state of calm and assurance, rather than only a fleeting sense of comfort. It allows us to discover meaning and purpose even in the midst of hardships, and to handle challenging situations with composure. God is with us, experiencing every moment with us, sharing our joys and sorrows, rather than only watching our struggles from a distance. Our posture, our perspective on the world, and our responses to challenges all reflect the inward transformation that occurs when we embrace this presence in our life. We learn to be resilient by the strength of God's voice throughout storms. Every storm we encounter and conquer with Him fortifies us and better equips us to handle the challenges life may throw at us in the future. Furthermore, every time God provides us with assistance during trying circumstances, we have the chance to serve as examples of His kindness and faithfulness to people around us. Our personal triumph serves as a live example, demonstrating that God is present, tangible, and never leaves us. They mark the start of a journey of change and rebirth rather than its conclusion. God provides us with a kind of healing that transcends short-term respite. He aims to mend what was damaged inside us so that we may live freely, unencumbered by the constraints of the past. We often carry our wounds with us as integral components of who we are. They develop into brands that influence how we see ourselves and respond to the outside world. To achieve a level of peace and completeness that only genuine spiritual healing can provide, God, however, asks us to see beyond these wounds and allow Him to eliminate not just the symptoms, but also the underlying causes of our suffering. However, this healing process calls for vulnerability and bravery. Recognizing our wounds, no matter how painful, is the first step toward healing. Because we dread the agony of repeating our traumas, we often avoid facing them. However, God urges us to give over our sorrows to Him, to put our confidence in Him to handle our wounds. He asks us to let Him into the most intimate areas of our souls, to open our hearts, and to honestly reveal our wounds. Because of His boundless compassion, Jesus tells us that we may confide in Him with our problems, because He is ready to provide us with comfort and peace. The promise of total healing from God is an invitation to break free from everything that holds us back. He does not want us to carry the wounds from the past with us. Rather, He seeks to restore what was taken away, namely our capacity to live happily and freely interact with others. When God heals us, He fixes what appeared irrevocably damaged and restores our sense of purpose and hope. It is an act of divine repair, a guarantee that all we have gone through has been for a reason, and that even suffering can be changed into something lovely and meaningful when we are with Him. It takes faith and surrender to give our wounds to God. We must choose to let go of the suffering we bear, so that He may heal us from the inside out. Sometimes we hide some sorrows because we believe we can handle them on our own, yet God asks us to release that burden. He desires for us to put our burdens in His capable hands so that genuine healing might take place. It's as if He were saying, "Son, daughter, I see your pain. I understand what you've been through, and I'm here to restore your joy and your peace." The assurance found in Jeremiah 30:17, "I will restore your health and heal your wounds," demonstrates the extent of God's desire to see us whole. He desires for us to be whole, healed, and free. He is not satisfied while we live in fragments. This assurance serves as a reminder that with God, every broken heart can find hope, every suffering can be resolved, and every weary spirit can find a new beginning. He can only completely operate in our lives when we really put ourselves in His hands, which is why submission is so crucial to this healing process. Because our wounds, despite their discomfort, eventually become familiar, we often oppose the healing process. God, however, invites us to a higher way. In order for us to be reborn and become who He has always intended us to be, He challenges us to let go of the constraints of the past and the suffering that molded who we are. We cease to be defined by our wounds and begin to be led by the love and serenity that God provides when we let Him heal them. This healing process serves as a powerful example for people in our immediate vicinity. When we let God mend our life, we show that healing in our relationships and deeds, encouraging others to pursue the same tranquility. Every wound that is healed serves as a tangible example of God's love and strength in our lives, and serves as a reminder that, for Him, suffering is never the end, but rather the start of a new journey, a life filled with freedom and fullness. How about making the decision to surrender your wounds today, if you feel that you still need to do so? Your life may undergo a significant change as a result of taking this step of surrender. It is an invitation for you to feel God's love so deeply that every scar and every agony become signs of recovery and rebirth. Imagine what it would be like to leave those wounds in God's hands, believing that He would not only heal them, but also utilize them for something wonderful, rather than lugging them about like burdens. He transforms weakness into strength, suffering into witness, and agony into purpose. This is the strength of His divine healing, a healing that permeates every part of our being and is not just physical. We both contribute to this healing process by sharing our suffering, and God reciprocates by giving us His serenity. Because He already knows every detail of our scars and yet loves us so much, we don't need to be frightened to show ourselves to Him. Instead of judging us based on our wounds, He shows us compassion and reminds us that we are valuable in His sight. By choosing to be receptive to this healing, we allow God to restore all that has been lost and to take away the suffering that we have long thought is a necessary component of who we are. What's even more astonishing is that this mending isn't just for us. We become light for people who are also looking for healing when we allow ourselves to be repaired. Our path of recovery turns into a powerful testament, a real-life example that even the most severe wounds may be healed with God. We are planting seeds of hope and trust each time we tell about God's healing and heart repair. In order to show that God is real in our life and that there is no grief that He cannot cure, we are required to be a conduit for healing for others. So consider this. If you offered God your wounds, would He be able to cure them? Is it time to let go of these wounds and let God's peace occupy the places where suffering formerly existed? Allow this opportunity to enter your heart and receive the healing that only He can provide. One of the greatest mysteries and wonders of our religion is the existence of God in the middle of the crucible. We are blessed with God's presence when everything appears to be falling apart, just as He was with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego within the flaming furnace. This narrative serves as a reminder that God never abandons us, even during the most trying moments when it seems like there is no way out. Like a father who will not leave his children in the middle of pain, Christ not only observes from a distance, but also enters the flames with us. "Fear not, for I am with you," is a powerful statement from Isaiah. Something within of us changes when we realize that God is with us. An unexplainable confidence takes the place of the emotions of powerlessness and agony. In addition to giving us courage, He also fortifies, upholds, and carries us in His arms when we feel like our strength is running low. We can go through the fire without being devoured by it because of this kind of presence, which revitalizes us. God shields us from the flames, preventing our destruction, but instead using them to change and cleanse us. Every one of us has periods when the heat of adversity seems too much to endure. However, this is the time when God's promise is much more evident. We can be sure that He is working for us even when we can't see a way out, because we know that He is with us in the middle of the fire. Our metaphorical fire might represent a financial crisis, a betrayal, a loss, or any other difficulty. Furthermore, God will be present and loyal throughout these times, walking with us and keeping us safe. This tale of bravery and faith is more than simply a lovely metaphor. It is a spiritual truth that changes the way we think. We start to see hardships differently when we realize that, with God at our side, the flames cannot devour us. They cease to be dangers and turn into chances for fortification. We learn to trust God instead of being afraid of the fire, because we know that He has us covered no matter how hot it looks. He shapes us, strengthens us, and teaches us to rely entirely on Him during these difficult times. Jesus' assurance in John 16:16-33. You will experience hardship in this life, but do not lose hope. God is always one step ahead, as seen by the statement, I have conquered the world. He asks us to trust Him and rest in His triumph, since He has already won every war. We have the courage to confront any circumstance with our heads held high and our hearts full of faith, because we know that He has already conquered the world. This pledge is a genuine call to bravery. Knowing that Christ has already triumphed over the world, that He has previously endured hardships and come out on top, gives us hope that we will also triumph if we remain steadfast at His side. We learn to see challenges as chances to grow in our faith and strengthen our connection with God, rather than as something to be feared. God's presence ensures that we will come out of this experience stronger, wiser, and closer to the purpose He has for us. In times like this, fire becomes a tool of spiritual refining. God promised to be with us through all of life's hardships, but He never promised a life without them. He has promised us that He would always be with us and that He will support us through every hardship. When we give it some thought, we see that when God is on our side, no circumstance can defeat us. God's peace takes over our hearts, and we are no longer controlled by fear, uncertainty, or despair. The basis for walking through the fire with the assurance that we shall ultimately emerge, changed and rejuvenated, is this calm, which beyond all comprehension. Only when we completely trust God can we see a side of His kindness that is shown to us via the experience of walking with Him through fire. Because of this trust, we are able to live with thankfulness and persevere through hardship, because we know that every hardship serves a higher good. In the midst of adversity, we may see that God is at work in us, shaping our personalities, teaching us to be patient, and cultivating a faith that is solely dependent on His faithfulness and not on other factors. Through this process, He teaches us to be brave, resilient, and completely reliant on Him, preparing us for higher things. Therefore, keep in mind that God is with you the next time you find yourself in the middle of a furnace in your life. Instead of observing from a distance, He joins you in the crucible, experiencing your hardships and defending your soul. Fire is not the end. Rather, it is a step, a purifying phase that, in God's presence, enables us to come out stronger, wiser, and with an even more radiant faith. Trust Him and know that He can protect you and bring you to a new level of closeness with Him, regardless of how hot it gets. Tell us in the comments how God has supported you during trying times. The hope that comes from God is like a shining lighthouse that helps us navigate through storms and difficult times. It is a profound belief that God is in charge and has a purpose for every situation, without being restricted to a mere wish for things to improve. Because it is solidly rooted in God's unfailing faithfulness and everlasting promises, this hope is unshakable. Knowing that He acts on behalf of people who love Him allows us to confront even the most difficult situations with peace of mind. Even when the road seems bleak, we are given the strength to keep going by divine hope. It stabilizes us and stops us from getting swept away by the seas of uncertainty and hopelessness. This hope serves as a reminder that God has a bigger plan for our life, and that, despite the difficulties we face, they are all a part of a bigger picture that will lead to something positive in the midst of confusion and uncertainty. God wants us to be joyful and peaceful, and for that peace to spill out of us so that we might be a source of hope for others. This is promised in Romans 15:13. When God's hope spills into our life, we are unable to stop it. It naturally affects everyone in its path. We are asked to embody this optimism by living in a manner that encourages faith and trust in those around us. Hope in God is a transformative energy that causes us to perceive the future with hope and see beyond the present. Thus, knowing that our life is in the hands of the one who knows what is best for us gives us peace and the drive to live a purposeful life when we believe in divine promises. This optimism is well exemplified in Joseph's narrative. Even in the worst of situations, being sold into slavery, being misled, and being unfairly trapped, he has never lost faith in God. Even when everything appeared to be working against him, Joseph recognized that every circumstance had a purpose. At the conclusion of his career, he saw how God transformed every hardship into a chance for development and success, and every sorrow into a gift. This illustration shows us that even when it seems like everything is working against us, God is really in the background, planning every little thing so that we might ultimately see His faithfulness and kindness. We may see the world differently when we have hope in God. It enables us to realize that God has the power to transform everything into something positive, even when evil seeks to destroy us. This viewpoint provides us the willpower to persevere and enables us to see beyond the present challenges, realizing that every setback is a phase in the process that advances us farther toward our goal. Even in uncertain circumstances, we are able to relax and trust because of this hope that comes from God. This hope serves as a reminder that God's love and power never waver, even when all else appears to be changing. It is similar to a light that lights our way, demonstrating that God has the ability to resignify any suffering or circumstance, and that any challenge may be changed. We can face the present with bravery and look to the future with assurance when we know that God is in charge, knowing that everything He does is for our benefit. This hope serves as the foundation that keeps us from crumbling in the face of difficulties. Our emotions are at ease when we hold fast to God's promises, because we know that He is dependable. Because our hope is grounded in something greater than the fleeting things in this world, it stays unaffected by circumstances, even in the most complex situations. And this confidence in God keeps us going, revitalizes us, and gives us the ability to face hardship with optimism because we know that we shall eventually reap the rewards of our faith. The exhortation to live a life that inspires others is God's invitation to be overflowing with hope. She becomes a living testament and an example of God's faithfulness when our lives are rooted in her hope. Every challenging moment we face with optimism is a chance to demonstrate to others the strength of our faith and the fact that God is our source of income. We are telling the world that God is trustworthy and that His promises are real when we live with this hope. This assurance, which proves that our faith is unwavering even in uncertain times, is what we are supposed to live by. We are commanded to believe that God can turn everything that occurs to us into something positive, just as Joseph did when he accepted God's plan in the face of hardships and betrayals. Joseph's tale demonstrates that he did not allow despair to enter his mind. Rather, he believed that God was working even if he was unable to see the outcome. The foundation of God-given hope is this assurance. She tells us to believe that God is in charge and that He has a bigger plan for our life, rather than trying to comprehend every aspect of our path. God provides us with this hope, a hope that ties us to something everlasting and transcends the issues of this world, a plan that is much beyond our capacity to comprehend. Our lives alter when we hold on to this hope. We learn to live intentionally when we realize that every obstacle presents a chance for development and that everything happens for the benefit of people who love God. The assurance of a prosperous future serves as a powerful reminder that God views every aspect of our journey with clarity and purpose, rather than just a restricted perspective. When He says He has intentions to make us prosperous, He means a whole prosperity that includes serenity, purpose, and full fulfillment in its presence, not simply a monetary or fleeting success. This heavenly conception of prosperity permeates all aspects of our lives, and is shown by our capacity to confront challenges head-on, certain that each one advances us toward the larger goal it has set for us. Having faith in a bright future does not imply that there won't be any challenges. Rather, it means that you may be sure that God will turn every obstacle into a chance for growth and learning. Knowing that nothing is in vain with God, we may rely on this promise to sustain us throughout times of loss or uncertainty. He utilizes every event to mold our personalities, educate us to keep going, and make us stronger and more resilient individuals. It seems as if every stage of our trip precisely corresponds with His level, where all the suffering and difficulties help us develop and reach the completeness He desires for us. This fortunate future forces us to rethink what prosperity means. God encourages us to see genuine prosperity as something that arises from a heart linked to Him, a heart that finds peace and pleasure regardless of exterior circumstances, in a society where success is often determined by outward accomplishments and financial items. According to the divine design, true prosperity lies in a state of tranquility that beyond all comprehension, the ability to handle hardships with wisdom, and the conviction that we are being led by a higher purpose than what is visible to the naked eye. It is a future that becomes a live example of God's faithfulness, despite all the uncertainty. The promise found in Jeremiah 29:11 inspires us to plan, imagine, and live with hope, because we know that someone who is familiar with every aspect of our life is guiding us. When God claims to know His plans for us, He is implying that our destiny is carefully crafted by His own hands, rather than being determined by chance or other events. Because we know that God has already prepared the road in His boundless knowledge, we are free to live with confidence and dream fearlessly. He is well aware of what is required to fulfill the life He has promised us. As a result, every one of us is invited to walk in faith, to perceive every instant and every stride as a fragment of the divine plane that materializes at the appropriate moment. Because we know that our lives are in the hands of a God who not only makes promises, but also keeps them. This vision of a bright future is what keeps us strong, even during trying times. We can be certain that the future He has in store for us is bigger and more complete than we could have ever dreamed if we let Him lead the way and entrust Him with our hopes and worries. Anxiety and dread of the unknown are banished when we have faith in God's planned destiny. Knowing that a loving and dependable God is in charge of us enables us to enjoy the gift with more joy and thankfulness, because we know that He will take care of us in every way. Because we are firmly rooted in its promise of a prosperous and peaceful future, walking in this confidence is more than just an act of faith. It is a way of life that allows us to confront challenges with calm. In addition to guiding us on our path, God is with us at every turn, molding and readying us for what is ahead. God urges us to imagine and dream of a larger perspective, a divine viewpoint, since the wonderful future He offers us is not restricted to our fleeting wishes or little aspirations. God is aware of our full potential, the abilities and talents that have been bestowed upon us, and He knows just how to utilize them to change the world. Our dreams take on more depth and significance when we are able to connect with this vision and match our aspirations with God's. We start to want things that respect and glorify their names, in addition to those that fulfill our own desires. Knowing that God is in charge of our destiny encourages us to live intentionally and to savor each moment as it fits into a greater scheme. We have the fortitude to keep going even when the obstacles seem insurmountable, because we know that we are headed toward God. We are urged to face the future with hope and confidence rather than dread, believing that God has already planned every aspect and will allow us to access what He has set aside. This self-assurance changes how we approach challenges and enables us to see each setback as a springboard for something bigger. God asks us to keep our eyes set on what He has planned, to remain unfazed by hardships, and to never lose hope in the fact that His promise is real and unalterable. Therefore, our future is a voyage of development, education, and spiritual advancement rather than a final destination. Every experience, no matter how positive or challenging, helps us get closer to the goal God intends for us. And when we accept this assurance of a prosperous future, we are motivated to live in a way that demonstrates our faith in God in every decision and deed. Therefore, let God dream and have faith as you consider the future He has in store. Keep in mind that He already knows the path and that you will be led to a place of happiness, contentment, and serenity if you follow your instructions. As you create your life, let this promise of a fortunate future serve as the cornerstone. With God, the best is yet to come. One of the greatest benefits that God can give us is serenity, which is unaffected by the situations that surround us. Divine serenity is solid and unwavering, existing even in the most tumultuous times, in contrast to the fleeting tranquility that the world provides, which is dependent on the absence of issues. It is an inner peace that changes us, enabling us to confront difficulties calmly and providing us with the assurance that God is in charge and will handle every aspect of our life. Jesus offers us a peace that the world cannot provide, a serenity that can keep our hearts intact even under the most trying circumstances, when He says, "I leave you peace, my peace I give you." This pledge is a call to completely trust Him and to confide in Him with all of your worries, anxieties, and uncertainties. God's peace is a gift that envelops, shields, and fortifies us, enabling us to proceed with assurance, knowing that we are secure in your care no matter what. Isaiah 26:3 tells us that this serenity happens when we keep our eyes focused on God and choose to put our faith in Him rather than letting our circumstances fail us. We discover a beautiful calm that beyond our comprehension when we put our confidence in God. This assurance comes from a daily commitment to give God our worries and anxieties so that He may fill our hearts with His peace and tranquility. It seems as if when we put our confidence in God, we build a stronghold of tranquility around ourselves, shielding us from outside stresses and enabling us to live with a calm heart and mind. God gives us this wonderful gift of peace that surpasses all understanding, but it requires that we approach Him and offer Him our worries and anxieties in prayer. Philippians 4:6-7 tells us that when we pray and ask God for what we need, His peace will keep our hearts and thoughts focused on Jesus. This implies that when we confide our worries to God, He surrounds us with a calm that serves as a barrier to keep worries and uncertainties at bay. This tranquility is a spiritual stronghold that upholds and supports us. It is neither brittle nor fleeting. It takes a habit of faith, a daily act of trusting God, to cultivate this inner calm. When we decide to concentrate on it rather than issues, when we take solace in its assurances, we feel a serenity that defies rational interpretation. This calm allows us to look beyond the challenges, meet the storms with composure, and live with the assurance that comes from knowing that God is with us. Regardless of the storms we encounter, we may stay steadfast because of this calm. By developing it, we become aware that our heart and intellect are more in harmony with God's truth and are less vulnerable to other influences and diversions. Not because issues go away, but rather because it alters our viewpoint. God's peace enables us to handle difficulties and uncertain times. Focusing on God calms our souls and gives us the insight and fortitude to carry forward by letting His peace rule over any uneasiness. Additionally, this heavenly calm encourages us to have less control and more faith. We often wish to handle things on our own, bear the burden of obligations, and attempt to resolve problems on our own. But this serenity that God provides serves as a reminder that He is in charge and that we don't have to bear life's hardships by ourselves. We are choosing to rely on His knowledge and unwavering care as we offer it our worries. It seems as if He envelops us in His peace when we give up, reminding us that we don't have to worry about the future while He is with us. Our relationships, choices, and outlook on life all reflect the lighter, more tranquil lives we lead as a result of our faith in God. Divine serenity gives us a feeling of balance and purpose, in contrast to the fleeting tranquility that the world provides. When we are at peace with God, it permeates all we do and changes how we respond to difficulties and engage with others. We become more understanding, patient, and capable of handling hardship without being deterred. Above all, peace that beyond comprehension encourages us to fully rely on God. She serves as a reminder that a strong and ongoing connection with the Creator provides us with genuine security rather than external conditions. When we realize this, our faith deepens and we live with a peace that comes from having complete trust in God. With this serenity, we can face any circumstance knowing that He is with us, encouraging us, and directing us at every turn. Every day, try to find this tranquility. One of the most exquisite truths we may encounter, and one of the biggest mysteries, is God's love. Because He loves us for who we are, not for what we do or don't do. This love beyond human comprehension. This is the core of His unwavering love. Nothing can alter the fact that He loves us, because He is love. Our lives are firmly based on this love, because we know that God is always there, waiting to embrace us when we falter or stray from His will. We cannot find this unwavering affection anyplace else. Everybody has been rejected or abandoned at some time. These experiences create lasting impressions, prompting us to doubt our own worth and often to distance ourselves from others. However, all of these wounds may be healed by God's love. He views us with empathy, comprehends our difficulties, and embraces us for who we are. Because we know that we don't have to prove or win your love. This love frees us. God's love for us is everlasting and above our past, transgressions, and current frailties. Romans 8:8-29 serves as a reminder of the depth of this love. Nothing in the universe, including life, death, angels, devils, the present or the future, can ever separate us from God's love. This implies that God's love endures under all conditions. He is a solid base, a refuge that envelops and upholds us. We are reassured by this love that we are deeply loved despite our flaws and shortcomings. Knowing that we can always rely on God's unfailing love frees us from emotions of shame and guilt, enabling us to walk with hope and confidence. He changes who we are when we embrace this love. We live in the assurance that we are God's cherished children rather than in dread and uncertainty. We develop a new identity, purpose, and a strong desire to share this truth with the world as a result of this love. Being loved without conditions enables us to love others, transforming us into conduits of kindness, empathy, and compassion. In order for people to perceive and experience God's love for them, we are obligated to live as examples of this love. In addition to experiencing a profound sense of serenity, embracing this love has given us the fortitude to confront life with bravery and thankfulness. We realize that our existence has priceless worth and an everlasting meaning when we realize that nothing can ever separate us from this love. Because we know that God constantly loves and welcomes us, this love allows us to live generously, forgive quickly, and bounce back from setbacks with fortitude. This is the love that urges us to live completely, heals our scars, and gives our lives purpose. We are surrounded by God's unwavering love, which fundamentally alters the way we see the world and ourselves. We start to release ourselves from the demands and expectations of the outside world when we realize how deeply and forever we are loved. We learn from this love that our worth is independent of our accomplishments, acceptance, or flawlessness. Rather, He demonstrates that we are valuable just for being ourselves, as God created us with a special purpose and loves us for who we are, flaws and all. This reality provides us with the fortitude we need to meet any obstacle with a calm and secure heart. We are aware that God's love and support will always be with us, no matter how challenging things become. We are strengthened, maintained, and rejuvenated by this love, particularly during periods of weakness or discouragement. He serves as a reminder that we have a heavenly parent who really cares about all facets of our existence, and that we are not alone. Knowing that God will always be there for us gives us the courage and fortitude to confront uncertain times. We come to understand that this love is an endless supply that allows us to love others similarly when we live from it. This unconditional love encourages us to see others around us with the same acceptance and kindness, to be more empathetic, and to forgive more readily. We become messengers of this divine love, giving others we come into contact with hope and brightness. Because of God's love, we become conduits for healing and support, demonstrating their concern and acceptance of the world. We are also released from emotional weights and anger when we live with this assurance of love. Allowing ourselves to be loved by God brings us the serenity that mends our hearts and enables us to let go of our fears and pains. We realize that our life has everlasting meaning and live with a greater purpose when we give ourselves up to this love. This view inspires us to live fully and gratefully, to be the greatest versions of ourselves, and to utilize our abilities to help and inspire others. It takes a daily decision to open the heart and let God's unconditional love fill it to overflowing. We get closer to this love and discover a greater purpose for our path each day that we decide to live in it. This experience is the cornerstone of a complete and really changed life, since nothing can ever unsettle us or take away our delight when we live with the assurance that we are loved eternally. The love that never fails, never gives up, and constantly draws us nearer to God is the greatest gift He can give us. One of the most powerful forces we may have in our life is the presence of God, who is a source of triumph. We have a bravery that beyond our comprehension when we know that the Creator Himself is at our side throughout every conflict. The assurance that we are not alone and that we have a strong God who never abandons us is what He means when He says, "I'm with you," and it goes beyond simple consolation. In every challenging condition, no matter how big the battle, God's presence envelops us, fortifies us, and guides us to victory, changing the environment. This changing force is seen in the tale of Joshua and the Israelites. In addition to promising them the earth, God also promised that He would be with them at every turn, against every obstacle, and at every turn. Knowing that we are more than winners when God is with us, regardless of how difficult things may be, is the core of confidence. This promise applies to everyone who believes in God and lets Him direct their lives, not only Joshua. "Don't be afraid, I'm with you," He says, and we undoubtedly learn to see our struggles as chances to witness your strength and loyalty. God's presence guarantees that we will never be alone, yet it does not end conflicts. It transforms our hardships into opportunities for personal development and spiritual fortification. We have unwavering faith because God was with David when he faced Goliath, Joshua when he faced Jericho, and Daniel when he was with the lions in Kova. God is still there and active in our lives, ready to lead and protect us in any circumstance. Your presence is a shield that envelops us and provides us with the fortitude to endure in our own struggles, whether they be related to money, health, relationships, or emotional matters. If God is for us, who will be against us? Paul states this confidence in Romans. It is a strong statement that empowers us to go forward with faith and resolve, because we know that no obstacle is too big when God is on our side. Every conflict offers a chance to see its strength, watch its promises being realized, and develop the faith that everything is possible with it. Because God is dependable and will never abandon us, His presence in our lives turns even the most trying moments into triumphs. As a result, we are urged to move confidently and confront challenges knowing that God is our refuge and that we will always triumph with Him. This faith in God gives us a fresh perspective on every conflict. We confront our difficulties with a strength and composure that the outside world cannot comprehend when we realize that He is at our side not only as an observer, but also as an active companion and real shield. We may be certain that God is working for us, regardless of what they attempt to hurl at us or how contradictory the situation may seem. Even in the face of adversity, His presence molds and changes us, making every struggle a crucial component of our spiritual and individual development. We mature by letting God fight beside us, just as a fighter is strengthened on the battlefield. Every challenge we confront with the assurance that Christ is with us turns into a testament to our faith and triumph. This not only makes ourselves stronger, but it also makes those who watch our trip stronger. Because God is trustworthy, His presence in our lives is a living proof that we can overcome any obstacle, no matter how big. And we get stronger, more resilient, and more conscious of the fact that, in reality, if God is for us, who will be against us? With each victory we achieve with your assistance, everything is altered by this conviction. Rather of being shattered by the situation, we are inspired to go on with bravery and thankfulness. We can maintain our strength and perseverance in the face of adversity because of God's presence. He gives us power that surpasses our own limitations and calm that beyond our comprehension. And after every war is over, we can look back and see how He was always there, how His hands kept us going, and how He became closer to us with each battle. Therefore, let us never forget that the Creator Himself is with us in our struggles. He is our triumph, our safety, our haven, and our strength. With this assurance, we may go forward with assurance, understanding that every challenge is a step closer to God's plan for us. God provides repair in ways that are beyond our comprehension. He assures us that everything we lose, including time, chances, desires, and even relationships, may be recovered when He claims He would return the years the grasshopper swallowed. He does more than just make surface-level repairs. His restoration goes deep, touching the spirit, the soul, and even the environment we live in. Every suffering, every loss, and every mistake may be changed by God into something meaningful and purposeful. Even the wreckage of our life may be transformed into a fresh start with it. There is more to this heavenly repair than what our own eyes can see. We often believe that all is gone when we look at our life and just see the mistakes, the losses, and the unmet promises. God, however, sees beyond it. He recognizes the potential we still possess, and when we surrender to Him, He tries to rebuild what failure or pain have shattered. Every shattered fragment and dashed hope is transformed into something fresh and lovely by God. He assists us in reestablishing who we are as cherished kids and as individuals with worth and meaning. When we choose to entrust our wounded to Him, this promise of repair starts to come true. Since we often have to go back in time and expose the suffering we want to conceal, it is a process that calls both bravery and trust. However, genuine healing and a true renaissance can only be found in this surrender. God raises us from the ashes, turns what would have looked to be our ultimate loss into a triumph witness, and sets us on a course toward purpose and rejuvenation. I am able to do new things. Just trust me, He seemed to say. We let God into every aspect of our life that need healing when we are receptive to this process of restoration. He rekindles our passions, reestablishes our connections, renews our strengths, and returns the pleasure that appeared to have vanished. Every part of our lives has been completely restored by God. With Him, we may be certain that what was lost is now saved and redirected for a bigger goal, one we might not even be able to see. Knowing that nothing in our life is beyond God's grasp is an encouragement to live joyfully, confidently, and gratefully in light of this divine healing. He gives us new strength, a fresh perspective on life, and the ability to perceive His kindness and constancy. Our lives undergo a renaissance when we let God repair them, preparing us for a bright future full with opportunities. Every region that was previously in ruins eventually reflects God's beauty and love as part of the restoration process that leads us to a life of fullness. In addition to healing, this process transforms who we are and how we see the world. When God restores, He adds something new that improves our lives and fortifies us for the future, rather than just giving back what has been lost. With this rebirth, we learn to live in the hope and promises He puts before us, rather than the wounds and losses of the past. God reminds us via restoration that there is always a new beginning and an opportunity to live life to the fullest when we are with Him. Our future is not defined by our past, as Jesus promises to make new all things. What God can do in our lives is not limited by suffering, mistakes, or failures. Instead, it turns what seemed to be the end into a fresh chapter with meaning and purpose. Every hurt we cause, and every letdown we have faith in Him, turns into a foundation stone for something even more magnificent and expansive. Living in God's restoration means learning to trust your plan for our lives, even when our own is still clouded by the scars from the past. With every step we take in this process of restoration, we learn more about His love, compassion, and capacity to change us. He sees the big picture and urges us to look beyond the present. And as we go through this change, we start to live as living examples of God's faithfulness, reflecting this restoration in our lives. Accepting the gift that God has given us, letting go of the past, and living with an open heart are all part of this invitation to repair. He guides us to a place of tranquility and rebirth where our faith is reinforced, our strength is restored, and our hope is restored. And as we continue to be restored, we serve as a lighthouse for others who are still mired in their own suffering and loss, demonstrating that with God, a fresh start is always possible. Give yourself permission to have faith in this process and enjoy the repair that only God can provide. Allow yourself to be healed in the way He has planned and undergo the whole change He desires in your life.